Good evening. The Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting for August 8, 2016 will please come to order, and will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Cohen.
Here.
Ms. Keene.
Here.
Ms. Johansson.
Here.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. McCullough.
Here.
Ms. Lucky.
Here.
Ms. Paulzine here. And sitting in for Dr. Anderson, Ms. Annie Doty.
Here.
Thank you. Our first order of business tonight is to approve the agenda and consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed as a consent agenda item and addressed. The consent agenda items are listed in the board materials, and the recommended action is to approve the agenda and the consent agenda items. Is there a motion?
So move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to remove two items from the consent agenda and move them to agenda item 6C, Finance and Business Services. The two items are 2K, approval of transportation contract, regular to and from transportation for a student, and 2L, approval of transportation contract, special transportation, MTI. I'm requesting to move these items off the consent agenda so that Mr. Westrom can provide a summary of the transportation contract negotiations and that the board has the opportunity to ask questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Keene. So the recommended action is to amend the consent agenda items as Ms. Keene just described, removing two of them and placing them under finance and business for discussion a little bit later in this meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And is there any discussion? Okay, all those, actually we need to do a roll call vote then. So the recommended action as amended then is to approve the consent agenda as amended, and I'll ask the clerk to take a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
Ms. Johansson.
Yes.
Ms. Lucky.
Yes.
Ms. Paulzine, yes. Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. Keene.
Yes.
And Mr. McCullough.
Yes. So the recommended action passes, and Mr. Westrom will cover the transportation items later during finance and business. Thank you. The next item on our agenda tonight is recognitions, which is certainly one of the highlights of any board meeting, so I thank you all for being here tonight. And with Dr. Anderson not being here tonight, we're happy to have Ms. Doty, our Executive Director of HR, in his place, and I will turn it over to her.
Thank you.
Good evening. As they mentioned, I'm Annie Doty, the Executive Director of HR, and thank you for being here. This is always one of the highlights of our meetings. So our first recognition is actually for our retirees. And each month we recognize any employees who have announced their retirement for 2016. And we always want to thank them for their years of service to the Wayzata Public Schools and wish them well in their future endeavors. So tonight we have the announcement of Nancy Campbell. She's a paraprofessional at Oakwood, and she worked for us for 13 years. And we always give them a round of applause even though they're not here. Our second recognition is our July Employee of the Month. Yes, we know it's August, but he was not able to be here last month. And our July Employee of the Month is David Muscaplat. Can you come forward? So it's with great pleasure that we nominate Human Resources Staffing Specialist David Muscaplat as the July Employee of the Month. David has worked for the Wayzata Public Schools since October 2012, when he was hired for a newly created position, and he has exceeded our expectations. When he interviewed for the position, his closing statement was, "You may have other candidates who have more experience working in education. However, you will not find another candidate who wants this position more than I do. I believe in your mission, and I want to assist with this work." David has proved this commitment to us each day of his employment. In a relatively short tenure, David has already made his mark on the organization. Very early in the morning each day, he works diligently to find substitutes for any positions that are unfilled. His creative efforts, including picking up a substitute teacher at an auto repair shop so she could substitute while her car was being repaired, has kept our fill rates between 95 and 100% each day. David has enhanced our district's hiring procedures. Because of his patience and his vast knowledge of hiring practices, he has proven himself to be an asset for our administrators. He's called upon daily for his counsel on hiring. He's also been a model employee for the Human Resources Department. Thank you. Never late, always getting the job done on time and meticulously, and he's a valued colleague and a go-to person. In his personal time, he has volunteered weekly at one of our elementary schools to assist a student with his reading skills. This is just another example of his commitment and desire to make our schools a better place for each and every student. Thank you, David, for making a difference in the lives of Wayzata Public Schools staff and students. David is very deserving of this recognition, and we congratulate him as the July Employee of the Month.
I'll try to keep this very brief so that we can get on to these gentlemen who I'm sure have worked harder than I do. So I'd like to start by thanking Chase, if you're watching or watch later, and to the members of the board and to Annie Doty, not only for the great honor, but also for the leadership that you provide in striving for our mission of success for each and every student. Usually when given the opportunity to speak about something that I'm so passionate about, such as Wayzata Public Schools, I can go on and on and on until I notice that people have had enough and want me to hurry up. So in effort to not do that tonight, I've written a few things down, so I apologize if I'm reading while speaking. But first of all, it's a great honor to accept the award of Employee of the Month, and I do so standing high on the shoulders of so many people. First off, my colleagues in HR, including my bosses, Annie Doty and Jody Dilley, who are daring enough to support and encourage me to take risks in my work. In addition, they jump in along with Leslie Myron and Joanne Fieldseth when I take on projects that I couldn't possibly pull off by myself. Which reminds me, we have a job fair on August 15th at East Middle School from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock. If anyone is looking for work or know of anyone that does, please refer them to our website for more information. I also stand high on the shoulders of the administrative staff and leadership teams who have been so gracious in sharing their time and knowledge with me. While I am perfectly aware that sometimes my request to interview 50-plus candidates in one evening is ridiculous, you still show up with a smile on your face, and I appreciate that support. I'd also like to make a quick mention of my father and the role that he played in developing my attitude towards work. In the 40 years that he's been my father, he's never said one word to me about working hard, but yet he wakes up at 4 o'clock every morning and goes out the door to a hot factory and busts his tail and comes home and doesn't say a word about it. And finally, I accept this award standing high on the shoulders of my wife, Shannon. She came to accept early on in my role that this isn't just an 8-hour-a-day job for me or an 8-hour commitment. She doesn't hesitate to make the needed adjustments when I tell her I'm going to need to work late or do a few things in the evening or over the weekends. Throughout the hiring season, I interview hundreds of applicants who are interested in working for Wayzata Public Schools. From time to time, I am lucky enough to be asked this question: what do you like about working for Wayzata Public Schools? Every time I get asked this, I smile and I tell them two things. First, it is very evident to me that every single person that I work with here wakes up each and every day and comes to school for the same reason, to ensure a world-class education that prepares each and every student to thrive today and excel tomorrow. And secondly, throughout their journey of achieving that mission, they epitomize the word collaboration. Again, thank you for this honor and for affording me the opportunity to contribute to this mission.
And our next award is for our boys baseball. I really am so excited about this. I was telling your coach a little while ago, my 3 sons all played baseball, and this is the sport we love. So it's so fun to honor you guys tonight. The Wayzata High School baseball team won its first ever Class 4 state baseball championship on June 20th, 2016 in a 9-1 victory against Champlain Park at Target Field. Head coach Bobby DeWitt and the members of the WHS baseball team are present to be congratulated by this school board. Bobby, you want to come forward? Congratulations. And I'll give you a chance to say a few words and introduce your team and your coaches.
Wonderful, thank you. First off, I would like to thank the members of the board and others present tonight for inviting us to be a part of this meeting tonight. It does a great honor to us to be recognized in this way, and we do thank you for that. It's also been a great honor to be a part of the Wayzata School District. I do teach at Central Middle School. I've been there for 14 years, and I enjoy that every day that I'm able to go, so thank you for that. I'd like to introduce another coach here we have tonight, Mark Elias, who will come forward. No, he doesn't want to. My co-head coach, Mark Elias, who we've worked together for, I don't know, 9 or 10 years, which has also been a great honor to work with him. Other coaches that are not able to come tonight, Adam Getke, as well as Terry Steinbach. Really all 4 of us have shaped this program over the last 9 or 10 years. And the honor is just not mine alone, but really the work that we've all put in together. And then I'll introduce the players and then just say a few brief things about the season here. First off, our student manager this year was Justin Evilsizer. You want to maybe come up and kind of crowd around. Jake Marsh, Cody Getters, Parker Lavacek, Charles Engdahl, Chad Musser, Cam Keenan, Reese Smith, Jake Kroll, Jarrett Briel, Tyler Young, Griffin Schneider, Donnie Schrader, Peyton Gallagher, Danny Dice, Will Oberg. We did have a few players who weren't able to come tonight. Ryan Welch, Dylan Welch, Tom Scoro, Brendan Brody, and Matt Erkey. So it's a 20-man roster, so it's quite a few names to keep up with. This season, it was everything you'd expect it to be. You hear coaches talk about the magical season and the enjoyment you have when you see it all come together, and I think this group really embodied that idea. You could see it early on as the senior group came in as freshmen that they were really committed to working towards a common goal, that they supported each other, that they were willing to make sacrifices. And then as they became sophomores, the next group came in and they showed that same drive towards excellence. And as each group, each class came in, it continued to build and grow until we were able to put together the 20 guys that were on the roster this year, most of which are here tonight. And for me as coach, and speaking on behalf of my fellow coaches, it was truly a privilege to work with them and we learned just as much from them as hopefully we taught them. And at the same time, hopefully they began to realize that there are important things in life, that baseball isn't the only thing, and that win or lose, you can still enjoy the experience of working towards a common goal. And hopefully that's a message that they will take with them as they move forward, that sacrifice for the sake of your teammate, teamwork, effort, day in and day out, is really what's going to make you a successful person. So my hope is moving forward, they will take those ideas with them. And then again, thank you to members of the board, and then thank you to my players for giving me the opportunity to work with you.
There's a step. There's a step. There's a step. Oh. Use the step. No, I don't care. Oh, Anna just said use the step. Yeah. They look good. No, they're good. They do have some really tall guys. I know, they're tall. First baseman is like tall.
We'll be excited to have you back next year for number 2, okay? We had one more on the agenda, but actually for our Wayzata High School Strength of America Award, but that will be in September instead. So thank you.
That took care of everybody.
That was very cool to see, first state championship. Hopefully of many state championships for boys baseball. The next item tonight is our superintendent's report and recommendation. And it looks like we have a couple items under finance and business. So Mr. Westrom, I will turn it over to you.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'll start with the 2 items that are on the agenda, and then we'll visit the 2 items that were added to the agenda. So the first item is the monthly financial reports, and enclosed for the school board review and information are the following 2 financial reports as of June 30th, 2016, the Student Activity Fund Report and the Investment Summary Report. Just a reminder, members of the board, our fiscal year runs from July 1st through June 30th, and so we actually are doing a full close right now. So you will get preliminary updates in September. The auditors will audit those results, and then you'll get a final report in December. And that report will be submitted by state law to the Minnesota Department of Education by November 30th. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take those at this point. Otherwise, I'll go on to the second item.
No
Okay.
questions.
Sure. Members of the board, our second item is to approve a Meadow Ridge Elementary School construction project to increase the district's capacity for projected resident enrollment growth and direct the superintendent to submit preliminary lease levy amounts to the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Education for approval. In accordance with Minnesota Statutes 123B71, Subdivision 8, Wayzata Public Schools submitted a review and comment to the Commissioner of Education and received approval on January 21st, 2014 to construct Meadow Ridge Elementary School. And as you know, Meadow Ridge Elementary School will open to students in the fall of 2016. We're actually moving in there right now. So as a part of the district's comprehensive facility plan, Meadow Ridge Elementary was built with core spaces such as the cafeteria, media center, to allow future classroom additions to be completed in a cost-effective and efficient manner. The construction of additional classrooms at Meadow Ridge Elementary School was planned for and was planned to be completed at such time when the district's projected resident enrollment determined a need for additional instructional space. As a number of significant residential construction projects in the northern portion of the district, combined with robust sales of those same homes in the district, has accelerated the need for this additional classroom space. Commissioner of Education staff have been consulted and have concurred with this need and given the district approval to move ahead. The district manages student census information and works closely with local residential developers, property owners, city planners, and staff. Current student census data and projected resident elementary enrollment data indicate the need for the planned classroom additions at Meadow Ridge. Approval of classroom additions at this time will allow construction to be completed for use no later than beginning in the fall of 2018. You probably recall, board members, that we went into great detail about our enrollment as of, I think it was July 22nd at our work session. And at that point, 2 of our elementary schools in the northern portion of the district, both Kimberly Lane and Meadow Ridge, were beginning to hit projections, which still provided some additional room for growth. And you're probably aware that 4 of our elementary schools in the northern portion of the district, which would include Plymouth Creek, Meadow Ridge, Kimberly Lane, and Greenwood, all were created with additional capacity to allow for additional residential growth due to planned construction that was to occur in the district. So the district administration anticipated the need to finance these classroom additions and will utilize a combination of construction funds, operating capital funds, and lease levy financing. And I would just mention that due to the fact that the district administration anticipated the need to finance this, the tax impact would be minimal to none if we can structure the lease or if we can structure the levy and that the board approves in December of 2016. So with that, the recommended action is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Westrom. So the recommended action is to approve Meadow Ridge Elementary School construction projects to increase the district's capacity for projected resident enrollment growth and direct the superintendent to submit preliminary lease levy amounts to the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Education for approval. Is there a motion?
I so move.
And a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Brown?
Mr. Westrom, was there anything that we could have done differently prior to building Meadow Ridge as far as projections go that would have better prepared us for this circumstance? And if so, are we taking that into consideration going forward?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for that question. Members of the school board, as we have projected our enrollment projections within the district, we've looked at the district as a whole, and then we've also looked at independent or individual attendance areas. And as you are probably aware, the northern portion of the district is really seeing a significant level of growth, and the homes that are being sold actually are seeing a higher yield than even the developers are anticipating. So, for instance, Kristen Tollison, our Director of Administrative Services, meets with a number of developers on a monthly basis, and I meet with a handful of developers as well. And in meeting with, we both experienced a meeting with our respective developers, kind of a little bit of a surprise, but they were thankful that it was a surprise that the number of homes and the demand for the Wayzata schools was as high as it was. So we actually anticipated making capacity in Plymouth Creek, in Greenwood, in Kimberly Lane, and Meadow Ridge, understanding the fact that we could not and we would be limited on the ability to make additions to Plymouth Creek, Kimberly Lane, or Greenwood. We've already made those additions to Greenwood. So Meadow Ridge was the only building that could accept additions, and we anticipated that those additions would occur at the time that the enrollment growth indicated such. So at this point, we believe that the current boundaries will be able to be sustainable once these additions are put onto Meadow Ridge, unless anything significantly unusual or an acceleration of homes occurs above and beyond what we've expected. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair? I would just like to recognize and thank the administration for staying on top of this. I know that you're doing an awful lot of work by, monitoring enrollment and approval of building permits, and also monitoring the turnover of existing homes throughout our whole district. And so the administration has really paid close attention to every, dotting every I and crossing every T. And that, I hope I'm not overstepping, but I think on behalf of the whole board, thank you for keeping our district right-sized, because I think this is the right time to move ahead with plans to do the additions, so.
Yep, and maybe I'll make a comment. Ms. Polzine is actually the chair of the committee that works on facilities in our school district, and we meet on a monthly basis. We have our construction manager, we have our architects, and we review enrollment projections as well during that period of time. We also have a Citizens Finance Advisory Council that's made up of 12 leaders in our district and in our community. And Andrea Keene leads that group, and we have been in close contact with them, looking at our enrollment trends and our ability to service the students with the very high demand for Wayzata Public Schools. Wayzata, our CFAC members say Wayzata has a brand that is very attractive, both locally and nationally. And we anticipate that now with the significant amount of development, residential development that's occurring, and potentially residential turnover on existing homes in the southern portion of the district, we'll continue to see significant enrollment growth. So thank you.
Thank you for the additional information. So the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. And Mr. Westrom, I'll turn it back over to you for the transportation contracts.
Yes, so agenda item 2K, which has been moved from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. This is the approval of the transportation contract for our regular to and from school transportation with First Student Incorporated. As background, on April 28, 2014, the school board entered into a contract with First Student to provide regular education to and from transportation. So that's to and from school for the students in our district. And you're probably aware that we have approximately 10,000 students out of our 11,000 plus students that actually take transportation. The terms of the contract at that time that were approved were for 14 and 15, fiscal year 14-15 and fiscal year 15-16, which we just wrapped up. And then the district had an option for an additional 2 years. That would be the fall of 2016 through 17, and then the fall of 17-18. As a part of the contract, First Student is completing a conversion to new buses and using propane as an alternative fuel option. This conversion is taking place over 4 years, and the number of buses being replaced each year was as follows: 16 in the first year, 23 in the second year, so those have already occurred, and then 23 next year and 24 the subsequent year. After the 4-year conversion period, the entire daily regular education fleet would be propane buses instead of diesel, and diesel would simply be used for backup or a long trip solution. So once again, you're aware that we have a Citizens Finance Advisory Council, and the school board finance committee met with CFAC, and we had deep conversations on the benefits of migrating away from diesel and migrating to propane. You're probably aware that diesel sometimes gels up when it gets extremely cold, and so we believe after this full conversion, at least when it's 20 below or approaching 20 below, we know our buses will be able to run because they'll be running on propane. So we believe that's more reliable. And then also we believe that having a updated fleet actually will serve our community better. So the district administration is recommending exercising the option to renew for an additional 2 years, the 16-17 school year and the 17-18 school year. And then just for your information, the option includes a rate increase of 4.5% for year 1 and 2.5% for year 2. And the increase in the daily rates is primarily being used in part to attract and retain bus drivers for the Wayzata school routes. As you heard David Muscoplat indicate there is a job fair occurring next week, and it's pretty widespread throughout the metro that it's difficult to find bus drivers. So I'll put a plug in. If anybody would like to drive a bus, or knows of anybody who would like to drive a bus, please contact First Student in Plymouth. So, and with that, the recommended action is before you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Westrom. So the recommended action is to approve the exercise of the option to renew the First Student Transportation contract with the rate increases noted above and to authorize the board chair and the clerk to execute that contract. Is there a motion?
I so move.
And a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, and then the next item is agenda item 2L. This is the approval of the transportation contract for special transportation with MTI. Once again, at the same time, in April 2014, the district reviewed requests for proposals for special transportation services, and that's just for the general public. Those would be the smaller buses that would pick up people who may have additional needs, for instance, maybe being in a wheelchair or needing some special assistance in being transported to and from school. Based upon the results of the RFP process on April 28, 2014, the district entered into a contract with Mainline Transportation Incorporated, or MTI, for special transportation services during the 14-15 and 15-16 school years, and we also had a district option to extend the contract for an additional 2 years. MTI has worked efficiently and effectively with the district over the past 2 years. They also service St. Louis Park Schools and Hopkins. And the district administration is recommending exercising the district option to extend the contract for an additional 2 years. The extension includes a 2.5% increase for 16-17 and a 2.5% increase for 17-18. And these buses are not run on diesel. They're actually run on regular unleaded gas. And so weather is not an issue in making sure that these buses are reliable during cold weather. Similar to the work that we did with our regular to and from transportation, we actually had deep discussions with our Citizens Finance Advisory Council looking for strategies so that we could ensure that we had enough drivers to support our community. And at this point, I'm pleased to report that for the most part, even though we do want additional drivers, we do have a core number of drivers that can assist and transport our students this fall when school starts. So with that, the recommended action is before you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Westrom. So the recommended action is to approve the district recommendation to exercise the option to extend the MTI transportation contract with the rate increases noted above and to authorize the board chair and clerk to execute the contract. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Westrom. We have a few items tonight under other board action. And Mr. Westrom, because you were doing so well with the finance and business items, I'd like to have you, if you would, please present these 3 items for the board's consideration.
Yep, I would be happy to, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The first item is the approval of the designated bulletin board. And while it is generally accepted that the school board's official bulletin board is located at the district administrative building, it is recommended that the board take action on this designation annually as a reminder to the public. We will continue our practice of posting school board agendas on the district administration building's bulletin board during the 2016-17 school year. And if anyone wishes to receive a copy of the agenda, they may contact the administrative assistant, and a copy will be provided for the requested meeting. So the recommended action is before you to, I'll let you read that.
Okay, thanks. The recommended action is to designate the official district bulletin board for legal postings as described in the board packet and as presented by Mr. Westrom. Is there a motion?
I so move. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion of the bulletin board? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I forgot to vote. Aye. And opposed? Abstentions? All right, the motion passes. Thank you.
Our next item is approval of designated radio station. It has been a longstanding practice of the district to use WCCO AM radio station for making emergency announcements such as closings, delayed openings, or dismissing schools early. It is recommended that the board annually designate the station the district will use for such announcements and that we continue with WCCO AM for the 16-17 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Westrom. The recommended action is to approve the official, designate rather, the official district radio station for official announcements as described in your board packet. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thank you. The motion passes.
And our final item this evening is approval of designated newspaper. And the administrator recommends that the school board again designate the Plymouth Sun-Sailor as the district's official newspaper for the 2016-17 school year. The district publishes in the official newspaper all legal notices, such as school board minutes, bid solicitations, election notices, and other items.
Thank you, Mr. Westrom. So the recommended action is to designate the Plymouth Sun-Sailor as the official newspaper for the Wayzata Public Schools during the 2016 and 2017 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thank you. Motion passes. Our next item tonight would have been a board report for the Superintendent Evaluation Committee to present a summary of Dr. Anderson's performance review, which the board completed in the last several weeks. Because Dr. Anderson is not here with us tonight, we felt it was appropriate that he be here for that summary as part of the board reports, and so we will postpone that until our meeting next month. All right, our next item is an audience opportunity to address the board. I won't make the usual joke that I do. Is there anybody here to address the board tonight? All right. And our final item is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, the Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting for August 8, 2016 is adjourned.